Imagine a timeline where the god of thunder never forgave the universe. A timeline where grief, rage, and destiny twisted Thor Odinson into something far darker than anyone could have predicted. What if, in the depths of his despair, he accepted an offer from the mad Titan himself? What if Thor didn't fight Thanos, but joined him? Across galaxies, heroes would fall, worlds would burn, and a new cosmic empire would rise, powered by thunder and death. It is the story of the greatest betrayal in the history of the Avengers. It began on the ruins of Nidavellir, long before the snap, long before the Avengers ever understood the true scale of Thanos' plan. Thor had lost everything: the Warriors 3, Odin, his mother, Asgard, even the very idea of home. Each loss carved deeper and deeper into him, leaving behind a storm with no purpose. When he arrived at Nidavellir to forge Stormbreaker, he expected hope, but instead found silence. The massive forge dormant, Eitri broken, the dwarves gone. Another failure added to the growing weight on his shoulders. Thor collapsed to his knees, gripping the cold metal floor. For the first time in centuries, the god of thunder felt small, powerless. His thoughts spiraled. How many more would die because he wasn't enough? How many would fall before he finally became the king he was meant to be? His grief was a wound that never healed. And that was the moment a portal opened. The air bent, light collapsed inward, and from the distortion stepped a figure with slow, deliberate confidence. The Titan himself, Thanos. He did not attack, he did not taunt. He simply looked down at Thor with something approaching solemn recognition. "I know your pain, Odinson," Thanos said quietly. "I know what it means to fail the ones you love." Thor barely had the strength to lift his head. "If you've come to kill me, then do it." Thanos shook his head. "No, I've come to offer you the truth." In the stillness of the fallen forge, the mad Titan spoke of balance, of order, of a universe saved from itself. He spoke of the destruction that follows unchecked life, of the collapse he claimed was inevitable without intervention. His voice was calm, almost fatherly, as he explained the suffering he had seen, the kind of suffering Thor himself had lived. "You have lost a brother, a father, a people, a realm," Thanos said. "But your pain is not meaningless. It is a catalyst. You were born for more than saving Asgard. You were born to save existence." And for a moment, Thor listened, really listened. Because deep in the hollowed remains of Nidavellir, surrounded by the ashes of failure, Thanos' words sounded less like madness and more like purpose. Thor clenched his fists. "And if I refuse," Thanos stepped closer, lowering his voice, "then the universe will remain broken, and everything you've lost will have been for nothing." The storm in Thor's heart churned violently. For the first time, fighting no longer felt like the answer. Maybe guiding the storm somewhere else did. Thanos extended a hand. "Join me, Odinson. Together, we will bring balance to all." Thor stared at the hand. The universe seemed to hold its breath. And, slowly, painfully, he reached out. The moment Thor's hand touched Thanos's, something shifted across the cosmos. It wasn't a sound or a flash of light, just a silent, devastating ripple of destiny-altering course. Thanos didn't smile. He didn't celebrate. He simply nodded, as if he had always known the god of thunder would eventually break. Thor followed him through the portal and into the sanctuary too. Nebula and Ebony Maw stared in stunned silence. But Thanos raised a hand. "He is under my protection. Treat him as you would treat me." The Black Order bowed, though not one of them trusted what they saw. In the quiet war room, Thanos revealed the full extent of his plan. Not half-truths, not seductive fragments. Everything. The Infinity Stones, the Gauntlet, the universal reset he believed was the only hope for survival. Thor stood there, arms crossed, listening. At first with skepticism, then with something that frightened him: recognition, the cycle of destruction, the cost of peace, the inevitability of loss. The cosmos had taken so much from him that Thanos' logic didn't sound evil, it sounded familiar. And then Thanos handed him the map projection of the 9 realms. "Your people wander the stars, homeless, hunted," Thanos said. "If we bring balance, if we succeed, no realm will ever fall as Asgard did." Thor felt a stabbing ache. Asgard, his people drifting without a future, his failure echoing again. "What do you need me to do?" Thor asked. Thanos' voice dropped. "Your strength, your storm. With you at my side, The stones will be taken with minimal bloodshed. The universe will see a god standing beside me and choose submission over battle. Thor exhaled slowly. It felt wrong. It felt right. It felt inevitable. Their first test came sooner than he expected. The Outrider scouts brought word. Xandar had denied Thanos' request for the Power Stone. They prepared their armies, calling for help from across the Nova Corps. A last stand. Thanos looked at Thor. I will give them a chance to surrender, but if they refuse, the stone must be claimed. Thor's jaw tightened. I won't slaughter innocents. Nor will I, Thanos answered. But Xandar will attack, and when they do, defend yourself. When the Sanctuary 2 arrived above Xandar, the sky lit with warning sirens. Nova ships swarmed. Anti-air blasts fired. Xandar made its choice. Thanos raised the gauntlet. 3 stones already gleaming across the knuckles and unleashed a wave of power that disarmed fleets without destroying them. Engines died. Weapons short-circuited. Ships fell gently to the ground instead of exploding. Even Thor was stunned. See? Thanos said. Balance, not chaos. But then a platoon of Nova soldiers fired on the Black Order below. 3 members fell instantly. Thanos' calm broke. Now they've chosen violence. He stepped back. Odinson showed them the storm. Thor closed his eyes. He remembered Loki, Heimdall, Asgard's fall, and slowly the storm answered. Lightning tore across the battlefield, disabling weapons, shattering armor, forcing the Nova forces to their knees. It was overwhelming but controlled. Thor had never wielded his power with such precision. For a moment, he felt something he hadn't felt in years: purpose. When the battle ended, Xandar surrendered the Power Stone. Thor stood among the ruins, not bodies, not flames, but ruins of pride, of resistance, and realized the most frightening truth of all. He hadn't hated what he'd done. Word spread. First in whispers, then in terrified declarations that rippled across the galaxy. The Mad Titan had a new weapon, one that the universe once called a hero. Some worlds refused to believe it. Others surrendered without a single shot, but all of them felt the storm approaching. Thor traveled with Thanos from system to system, each encounter testing the fragile line he still tried to walk. He struck only when forced. He refused to kill unless absolutely necessary. And yet, every step he took carried him deeper into Thanos' shadow, where morality bent and blurred like heat on a distant horizon. But the Avengers did not stay silent. On Earth, the moment Tony Stark received intel from the Ravager's grainy footage of Thor fighting beside Thanos, he thought it was a trick, a hologram, a lie. But then the footage zoomed in and showed Thor's face clearly, lightning dancing across his eyes as he brought down entire battalions in a single storm-filled wave. Tony dropped the device. It shattered on the floor. Steve Rogers stared at the screen, his voice low. He's not corrupted. Look at him. He's choosing this. That was somehow worse. By the time Thor and Thanos reached the Collector's Vault, the Avengers had already split into factions. Those who wanted to save Thor, and those who believed he had to be stopped. The universe could withstand Thanos with the gauntlet, but Thanos with Thor, that was a cosmic, extinction-level threat. Inside the vault, Thor found himself face to face with the Reality Stone. Tyvan begged, pleaded, tried to warn him of the consequences, but Thanos remained gentle, almost compassionate. Even as he reached for the stone, "Pain has shaped us both," Thanos said softly. "But from pain comes clarity." The stone fused into the gauntlet, reality warping around it like liquid glass. Thor felt something then, an ease, a tremor, deep within the storm inside him. The more stones Thanos gathered, the more the Mad Titan's vision drowned out everything else. Even choices Thor once thought were his own began to feel guided, sculpted. He approached Thanos privately. "You talk of balance, of mercy, but each battle makes you colder, harder." Thanos regarded him with unreadable eyes. "Clarity is never comfortable, Odinson, but necessary. Every stone brings us closer to salvation." Thor didn't respond, because, for the first time since Nidavellir, he wasn't sure salvation was what he saw. Then came the mission that shattered whatever doubt remained. Their next destination, Earth. The Mind Stone, Vision, Wanda, the Avengers. Thanos placed a hand on Thor's shoulder. "Your people called your home Midgard. I know this world matters to you, so I will ask only once. Will you stand with me, or against me?" Thor's heart twisted violently. The storm churned. He saw Flash's friends, allies, family and everything but name. But he also saw Asgard burning, his people drifting through space, every failure that had carved into his soul. Their pressure grew until it felt like his own thunder was suffocating him. Finally, he whispered, "If the universe demands balance, then Earth is not exempt." Thanos nodded once. No joy, no triumph, just inevitability. And in that moment, the Avengers felt something they had never felt before. Not fear of Thanos, but fear of facing Thor himself. The sky over Wakanda crackled with energy as the Sanctuary 2 broke through the clouds, its shadow swallowing the battlefield below. The Avengers formed a line, each one bracing for the storm they felt coming. But none of them were prepared for the sight that emerged from the descending light. Thor, cloaked in thunder, standing beside Thanos. Steve's shield lowered an inch. "Thor, don't do this." Thor didn't answer at first. The storm inside him pulsed, like a living thing, raging, demanding direction. He looked at the heroes who had once been his family: Steve, Natasha, Bruce, Wanda. So many faces tied to memories he wasn't sure he could carry anymore. Thanos stepped forward. "Stand aside. We seek only the Mind Stone." Steve planted his shield over our dead bodies. Thanos gave a small, almost respectful nod. "If that is your choice." The armies clashed with a thunderous explosion of force and fury. Outriders swarmed the field. Wakandan warriors pushed back with determination, and the Avengers fought harder than ever before. Yet the real battle was not in the chaos. It was where Thor faced the friends he had abandoned. Tony stepped toward him, repulsors glowing. "Thor, listen to me. You're grieving. You're angry. I get it. But you're standing next to the guy who wants to wipe out half the universe." Thor's grip tightened around Stormbreaker. "He wants to save it." "Save it," Tony shouted. "By killing trillions." Thor's voice cracked. "By preventing what happened to my people. To yours. To everyone." Tony hesitated because behind the fury, he heard the pain. But there was no time to break through it. Wanda, eyes blazing, floated above the battlefield. "Move aside, Thor. I won't warn you again." Her power surged. Thor felt her grief like a blade, her fear, her desperation. It mirrored his own, and maybe that was why he stopped holding back. Lightning tore from the sky, slamming into Wanda's shield with enough force to shake mountains. She held it for only a moment before crashing into the earth. Natasha sprinted to her side. Steve and Tony stood between Thor and Vision, bloodied but unbroken. Steve raised his shield again. "If you're going through then go on." The storm around Thor flickered. He remembered fighting beside Steve on the Helicarrier. He remembered laughing with Tony after Ultron. He remembered calling these people family. And in that flicker, the fragile remnant of the old Thor Thanos sensed danger. The Titans stepped beside him, Odinson, Fuketh. But Thor didn't hear him. His eyes locked on Vision, on the Mind Stone, glowing like a heartbeat of inevitability. Everything they'd done led here. Thanos extended a hand. The stone. Now. Vision looked at Thor, not Thanos. "You don't have to do this." Thor raised Stormbreaker. Then Steve shouted, voice cracking with desperation. "Thor, this isn't you." The blow froze midair. The entire battlefield seemed to stop breathing. Thor's face twisted not with anger, but with agony. The storm around him dimmed, sputtered, flickered like a dying star. He stared at Vision, at Steve, at Tony, at Wanda slowly rising again, at the people who had been his anchor, his purpose, his home, and finally, at Thanos. "I joined you to save lives," Thor whispered. "Not to become the reason they end." Thanos exhaled slowly. "Then you misunderstand salvation." He swung the gauntlet toward Vision. Thor intercepted the strike. Lightning met infinity. Stormbreaker met cosmic power. The earth split beneath them as their forces collided. Thanos snarled. "You disappoint me, Odinson?" Thor roared. "And you disgust me." For the first time, Thanos struggled. Thor's storm surged with the fury of a god rediscovering his purpose. The Avengers, bloody but united, charged behind him, pushing back the Black Order and Thanos' forces. But even weakened, Thanos was inevitable. With a violent burst of reality-warping force, he hurled Thor across the battlefield. Thor crashed hard, Stormbreaker skidding from his hand. Thanos grabbed Vision by the throat, ripping the Mind Stone free with a burst of golden light. Thor screamed, "No!" Thanos placed the final stone into the gauntlet. The universe trembled, and before Thor could rise, Thanos activated the snap. A blinding white flash swallowed everything. Silence fell. When the dust settled, half the universe had vanished, including most of the Avengers. Tony was gone. Wanda was gone. Natasha was gone. Half of Wakanda turned to ash. The battlefield was a wasteland of grief. Thor lay broken, staring at the heavens as the storm inside him died into a hollow whisper. In his quest to prevent more loss, he had caused far greater destruction, and Thanos' one-time ally disappeared into a beam of light, fulfilling his balanced universe, leaving Thor alone with the devastating truth. The greatest cosmic betrayal was not that Thor joined Thanos, it was that Thor finally realized it far too late. In this alternate timeline, the universe fell not because of a mad titan alone, but because a god lost his way. Thor's grief, weaponized by promises of balance, became the catalyst for cosmic ruin, and in the end, he learned the cruelest lesson of all, that even gods are vulnerable to despair. and a single moment of weakness can reshape the fate of all creation.